Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you come to learn all the most efficient, powerful, abundant ways to grow their firm, sharpen their sales skills, and have consistent, increasing revenue year over year. I cover topics from pricing, sales, networking, objections, ideal clients, some marketing ideas, and really about how to increase your cash flow and profitability and set boundaries so you have the firm that you've always dreamt of. You're no longer giving away your time for free. You're no longer putting yourself on sale, and you are being paid for the value and worth that clients actually appreciate you for. So you'll learn tips and strategies as well as hear personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm of your dreams and the life full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He's a returning guest and a dear client of mine. He's a CPA and he's owned a CPA firm since 2004. He has an undergraduate degree from the University of Wisconsin and also a master's degree in accounting from the University of Florida. He is a licensed CPA in Florida as well as a licensed certified tax planner, and he brings 32 years of experience and specializes in providing sound fiscal management for clients through proactive tax planning strategies for his clients. He is also a tax firm owner who's traveled 16 weeks out of the year last year, and his goal for every year moving forward is to travel 1 week out of the year. So I like to call our special guest the traveling CPA. And for those that are new listeners or repeat listeners, I've been helping accounting, bookkeeping, and tax firm owners have more freedom, just like our special guest has, and have more time and money so you can get paid first and upfront and confidently charge the fees that you know you deserve. I know that our system works and that I can help you create the firm you've always wanted, but it is up to you to take this next step. The next step is to head on over to theabundantcall.com to book your free breakthrough session with myself and my team. We will talk about 3 specific things on our breakthrough session. Number 1, where your firm is at now and what are the things that are keeping you stuck. Number 2, where you want your firm to be and in your life to ensure you're paid first, avoiding all the pitfalls along the way. And number 3, the exact next steps you can take to double your firm revenue. Every single one of our success stories has started with this call, and our special guest did this call too. And it's turned in not only into more confidence, charging premium fees, doubling top-line revenue, eliminating burnout and frustration, but ultimately feeling excited about your work again and being in complete control of your calendar, your time, and your vacations. So head on over to theabundantcall.com to book your free complimentary breakthrough session with myself or Denise. Our only requirement is that you own an accounting, tax, or bookkeeping firm. And now let's welcome Marc to the show. Welcome, Marc, to the show. I should say welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. And it's really good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you back here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. I know we did a podcast a really long time ago, so if any listeners want to find it, just type in Marc Schnoll on the abundantaccountant.com website in the podcast section. But before we get into today's case study about how you can travel the world and still run your firm and live this freedom that I think, Marc, you dreamt of back in the day when we first met in November of 2017, why don't you share with everyone where you are and what kind of firm you have, and just a little bit about you in like a minute or less before we dive in today?
Sure. I have a small but growing CPA practice. Our physical office is in Gainesville, Florida, but we have a team of 12, and almost all of us are remote. We're all over the place, that's the 30-second version.
Awesome. I love it. And when we met back in November of 2017, we met because Marc was reaching out to learn about tax planning and changed his practice, and through an organization called Certified Tax Coach through the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. Can you share though, Mark, like how many people did you start out with on your team back then? And now that you have a team of 12 working remote?
Sure, sure. Back then, we had 5 or 6 people. We had been at that size for a decade or more. We really weren't
You're stuck.
growing. Yeah, yeah. It was stressful as I progressed through this life and age and realized that none of us have a million years on the planet. I wasn't getting where I wanted to go, and so I was looking for something new, a better way to do things, a way to be more successful. And that's how I found my way to American Institute of Certified Tax Planners and you.
Yes, that's wonderful. And then I think you did the 8 week sales mastery training in 2018 is when you did that. So that was a propeller into what we're going to talk about today, which is the traveling CPA. I remember, Mark, when we first met, one of the most important things on your list was, or the things that you love most, is travel and eating well. I have that written in my notes still to this day. And
That's
now your goal is to take off almost a week a month, is what we had talked about. And after that, it's really about how can you embrace this, what Denise and I have been calling lately, relaxed success. And that in last year, you were out of town almost 16 weeks. And I would guess that in 2017 or 2018, you probably didn't think that was possible. And I believe that a lot of firm owners aspire to travel more, spend more time with their family, work remotely, and do the things that, like you said, you were just stuck. You were doing the same thing for 10 years, right? Or over a decade, you said, and couldn't get out of the rut. So, what do you think was the biggest challenge that you overcome? And also, how did you feel before versus now? Because I know you had skepticism. You've come across people like me that are all certain and 100% confident that, yes, you can change, Mark, I promise. And you're like, well, I've been doing the same thing for 10 years, Michelle. I know there's a better way, but I just don't really know how I'm going to get there. What is it that you see that I don't see? So, can you share with us a little bit about that journey and what you were going through in your head back in 2017 and 2018?
Sure, sure. It's like you said. I was kind of stuck. I needed to find a different way, and it was very stressful. Just really not progressing. The firm wasn't progressing, and the success that I wanted, the the career success, the financial success, I just wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And then, speaking with you, it seemed you were extremely confident that after talking with me that change was possible. I felt that change was possible. I just didn't really know how to do it.
Mm.
And so, working with the folks at AICTP, I learned about a new service offering and how to relate to clients. And then working with you in the 8 week sales mastery course, you encouraged me to take it in that tax season in early 2018. And I thought that it was a terrible time, as busy as we were, but you reminded me that this was actually the best time. This is the time, this time of year. We're talking in February today. This is the time of year that we are the busiest, that we hear from more potential new clients. So if I was going to change how I presented our value, how I presented, our services, no time like the present. And it's been nothing short of revolutionary in terms of the way our firm has worked with clients, how we acquire clients, how we continue to interact with clients, how we continue to grow. It's in thinking about this conversation that we're having,
Yeah.
I thought back to those days, and it's really night and day in terms of how we interact with clients and how we are as a firm.
Yeah, it is night and day. And I think since I love the word that you used, revolutionary, we can tackle that a little bit deeper because I think what you did create is revolutionary. And it's what a lot of people, maybe even listening, aspire to. And they might be in the same boat like you, I just don't know how to do it. I've talked to Michelle or Denise, or I've watched their videos, or I've listened to the podcast, and I just don't understand how they're so positive and certain. And I promise you, there is a better way. And I know you had a lot of low profit services, and then you found tax planning as a higher value service that really changed. And I think a lot of it is like you shared earlier, you were unsatisfied with a lot of where you were at, not only in your career, but with your financial success. And you weren't progressing. And when we're stagnant, it gets really frustrated. When you say it's revolutionary, can you share with everyone how your firm has grown since 2017, 2018 up until now?
So it's grown in a number of ways. First, as it relates to people, I mean, these are things that we can measure. You know, we had about 6 people then. We're up to about 12 now. Revenue is nearly double what it was then. We're growing consistently 15 to 20% a year. And I think we could do more, but I want it to be sustainable. I don't want it to get out ahead of us. But just in terms of how we interact with folks, our systems are so much better. We just sort of know what we're doing, and everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. We've implemented better systems technologically internally to help with workflow and communication. And in terms of what the firm actually looks like, back then we were 5 or 6 people all in the same place. It was a traditional firm, a physical office. We had one person working remotely, and that's a story for another time. But we had great difficulty finding talent in our local market in Gainesville. And so we started offshoring. About a minute before COVID hit, we started offshoring, and that helped. That did 2 things for us. Number one, we had better access to talent. Number 2, it forced us to be essentially a remote firm. And then when COVID hit, we were set. It was not a big change for us in any way. And then for me personally, during COVID, I realized, I always knew we could do the work remotely. The question was, could we sell our services in a remote way? And the answer was absolutely yes. And that was one thing that was maybe not surprising to me, but it was a burden, or it was a barrier that I needed to get over. And in realizing that, I realized that we don't need to be in Gainesville anymore to do our work and for us to sell our services.
Because we sell on the phone. I think most people think you have to be in person, or you have to be on video, or any of this. And actually, what I recommend, and why I don't do even a video podcast, is we can't be good listeners if we're trying to use our eyes and our ears and pretend like we're really engaged with someone in person or on the phone. We don't listen at the same rate as if you're just on a telephone, old school telephone, listening to someone's challenges, their pain points. How can I help this person? Am I the best person to help them and convert them? And I think what you created during COVID, and that you weren't meeting with people anymore in person, and you're not on Zoom, and you're doing all of your phone calls with prospects on the phone, you saw a huge increase in revenue. I mean, that's why you're still growing 15 to 20% a year and increasing fees, and you doubled your revenue from where you started back in 2017, 2018.
That's all true. We were, you hit the nail on the head. We were able to sell remotely, and then last year in 2022, when things were more open, my wife and I felt like we were finally able to travel. And so now the question is, all right, can we really, take this on the road and travel a great deal, which is what we love to do, what we want to do, but still continue to, maintain the responsibilities to the work. I mean, this is a growing firm, and I'm the leader of the firm.
Main thing. Yeah, you're the main show. You're the 100% owner.
Exactly. I mean, we've got a great team that does, the vast majority of the day-to-day work, but I need to set the tone, and I also and I'm the only person that really does the sales piece. So for us to continue to grow, I need to continue to work. So we tried to figure out a way to kind of, take it on the road. I put together a remote, basically a portable version of my workspace. I'm in my home office right now, but I'm looking at 3 screens. When we travel, I bring the 3 screens with me. It's a portable version, but 3, so I really have the same sort of work setup last year we spent 7 weeks in London. We rented an apartment. I had my home office there. We worked in London like I would work in Florida or anywhere else.
Yeah. And I think that's really, you stuck to your values and what you wanted to create with your wife. And I remember when we first met, you guys were actually in separate cities. Was she in Memphis? Or
She was in Memphis. We were in a commuting relationship for almost 15 years. That ended with COVID. She was a college professor. She came home for spring break in 2020 and never returned.
Went back. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And now you're home together. You're home more because now you're working from home, and you get to travel more together. And you traveled 16 weeks out of 52 weeks in a year. Enjoyed life and did all the fun things and ate delicious food, but still were able to focus on the sales, growing the firm, so your team had work to complete. It's all true. Yeah. We did 16 weeks last year. It's funny, when we spent much of the summer in London, my wife called it an experiment, and the experiment was a success. We're planning to do something very similar this year. We'll be overseas for much of the summer again, but again, I'll be working, and so not the same pace that I might work at home, but I'm doing everything I need to do, and that's what we want. Yeah, and that's just the beautiful thing about taking that leap of faith and trying something new and believing the others that saw the path that maybe you just didn't see. What I'm curious to hear is if you could share, what were some of the obstacles or hesitations that you had in trusting this process? And I know you were skeptical, and maybe even sharing, what were your biggest fears when you not only enrolled in Certified Tax Coach and became a CTC, added tax planning as service, but also embraced a new way to enroll clients and creating a sales process in your firm that you follow all the time now that helped you double your firm revenue. I mean, that's massive.
One of the things that I was concerned about is, whether it's working with CTC or working with you certainly encourage us, all the folks that work with you, to raise fees, to sort of push the envelope on getting the value, earning the value that we provide for our clients, and
that you want, right? Earning the value that you want.
Exactly. It's for us to at some level set our own fees. When you've been doing something a certain way for a long time, and suddenly you're told, hey, you need to do things differently, and raising fees can be a challenge. Folks, the worry is that folks are going to push back. You're going to lose a lot of clients, or there are all these things that go through your head. But using what you teach in the sales mastery course, I'm able to communicate better what our value is. I'm able to present that to a client and make it easy for them to see the value, make it easy for them to say yes. Also improve, the systems around enrolling and paying, and I mean, we haven't talked about the fact that, we don't spend 5 minutes a month dealing with accounts receivable anymore. And so even if we don't add another
How much time did you spend before? You're right. We forgot the AR. How much time did you spend before?
I personally spent probably 4 to 6 hours a month on billing, and my office manager, she would spend a similar amount of time either, interacting with clients as it related to money, and sometimes having to chase clients for money. That situation just doesn't exist anymore. and our systems
due to having a new sales process and creating and implementing it, because I don't know if you want to share how much your AR was and what you collected, but the fact that not only is it zero now, but you also don't waste 4 to 6 hours a month, plus the others in the office spending on billing, plus chasing clients for payments. I mean, there's so much time that was wasted before.
Yeah, I was in preparation for this call. I had a feeling that we were going to talk about this, and to me, and I looked at the numbers. It never seemed like it was that bad. I mean, at any given time, we might have somewhere between 20, 30, maybe $40,000 outstanding as accounts receivable. Stuff was typically pretty current, and I was never real worried about it. But the issue was the time. I mean, the time saved now. When we engage a client, if it's a 1040 client, they prepay, so that's not a problem. And then for our ongoing services clients, they give us their debit or credit card at the outset, and we charge them monthly as we provide service to them throughout the year. So it's really. It just isn't a problem anymore. It's a major time saver that what we've implemented.
Yeah, and I think some of these outcomes that you shared have massively changed the way you run your firm, and I think also created this free time to travel more and do the things that you love, because you've saved so much time in so many different areas.
Absolutely. I used to worry about things that maybe we had forgotten about or we hadn't covered, but the systems that we have in place, the technology and the communication systems, we just, things don't fall off the plate anymore, even though we have much more work to do. And so that gives me more confidence. Something else that I wanted to mention, we were talking about fees earlier and raising fees. What I realized when we raised fees is we really got very little pushback. Certainly we have lost some clients as we have pushed fees over the last several years, but I'd rather have fewer clients at a higher revenue number than the opposite. And we don't have fewer clients. We have more clients today than we did, also at a higher revenue number.
You got a new bench. It's like a basketball team, right? In the NBA. They have like the bench warmers. You just got rid of the bench warmers and put more starters on your bench.
Well, I will say that. I mean, all of those folks that are maybe not as good a fit today as they were, they helped us, they sustained us for a long time. And I certainly want to honor those folks. But, the firm has evolved. There are a lot of folks that were good clients of ours several years ago that aren't quite the same fit today. And that's okay. I mean, I certainly am at peace with that, but it is really like night and day, the way we operate today versus what it was a handful of years ago.
And how do you feel on a personal level from where you were at before when we first spoke? My guess is slightly frustrated. Maybe you can share exactly how you felt back then, and comparing it to how you feel now, being the traveling CPA that you are, and all of the plans that you guys have for vacations. And you just went on a 10-day cruise in February of all times. And, we're able to just check out and go enjoy life and really see the fruits of your labor and all of your years of hard work come to fruition, and enjoy those special moments with your wife.
There's a lot to unpack there. In terms of how I felt back then, I definitely, there was frustration, there was stress. Just not that there isn't stress today, but it's a different stress. It's a much better situation. I really feel I feel great about how far we've come. There's still certainly steps to go. We're not quite where we want to be. There's always something new to achieve. I feel really good and confident. I feel like we are achieving the success that I want to achieve. And there's more there to grab, more there to work and strive towards.
Yeah. And how do you feel about working now during tax season than what it was like before? Because I know you did the 8 week sales mastery training during tax season. And I think for a lot of people, there's hesitation about doing something like that during the busiest time of year. But what would you share your experience was during doing my program during tax season, but also the amount of experience that you had? Because, like you had shared earlier, you got the most people to talk to and you had the most practice. So, when you're trying something new and doing something new where it feels uncomfortable and that you have no time and that, these things Michelle has me do are just okay, enough is enough, I'm sure is what you thought a couple times. What would you say a tax season is like now for you versus before?
Well, I think as it relates to the sales mastery program, I actually think that the tax season is the perfect time to do it because you do get the ability to practice what you learn immediately. You get the feedback, and it's going to be good feedback. Very rapidly, I could see I could see myself being a better salesperson as the season wore on, and because you get all of that practice in an intense way, it really solidifies what you're teaching. And so it's really the best time to do it. And you get the positive feedback. Now, today, I mean, tax season is still very, very busy, but this is what we signed up for. And it's a pleasure for me to for me to have all of these new client sales calls and meetings. I mean, this is what we signed up for because we've increased our revenue so much. We've hired a lot of higher end people, folks that can do a lot of the day-to-day work that historically had fallen on me, especially in tax season. I have to do a lot less of that now so that it frees me up to do more of the sales and growth activities. And it's just kind of a virtuous cycle.
Yeah. And I think it's just a beautiful thing that, for those listening, Marc is still doing ongoing coaching with me. And we always talk about delegating more. And now I think you have the delegation thing down to a science.
What I find is that the more people we bring in, it's amazing. The things that we would love to get to, the projects, the improvement areas, the things we'd love to do that we just can't get to. You hire a new person and suddenly you have all that capacity to throw stuff at that new person. So,
but it's scary to delegate and take control away from you. And, especially if you've been doing it for so long. And in the beginning of the firm, or, for the first decade, you were stuck and stagnant and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then to finally just let go of it and see what happens and to trust that the person you're delegating to will do the same work, if not better than you. That takes a lot of courage.
It is challenging, but the only way to grow is to do that. In my first job, it was actually an interview for my first job. The managing partner of the firm that hired me said, "You can't be promoted until you train your replacement." I heard that it's over 30 years ago that he told me that, and I've obviously never forgotten it. But it's something that I've always tried to do because I'm always trying to personally grow and certainly having a practice, wanting it to grow. The only way to do that is to continue to train others and to try to help them progress as well. Yeah. And then it frees me up to do more stuff.
Yeah, or travel more. Your choice.
Indeed, exactly. Or travel and do more stuff. It all works. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Marc, thank you so much for taking out the time to share all this with us and share your experience of what it's like to now have a remote firm and do your sales over the phone and go on 16 weeks of travel with your 3 monitors and work part-time. But what would you say to other bookkeepers, tax professionals, accounting firm owners who are struggling just like you were and really wishing they could travel more and go to eat at nice restaurants like you enjoy, but just can't seem to break the 14, 18-hour day mold and get unglued from the desk and not feel totally burnt out and stressed like you had shared earlier and frustrated with the way things have been going for so long. What would you share with them with any final thoughts for today?
There is definitely a different way to do it. Michelle, I think working with you is a great way to learn how to do things a little differently, or actually a lot differently.
I always tell you different things. Even today, I have a new idea for Mark, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go have to think about this one, Michelle."
I always think about it, but every time I've implemented one of your ideas, it has increased revenue. I mean, every single time. So I don't know why I even have to think about it. I should just do it. I mean, you have to step away for a moment to think about what things can be, and things can be better. But you've got to do things differently. And working with Michelle is a great way to do that.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else, if they don't work with me, that you think one should implement or do differently that you wish you would have known, maybe even prior, in 2015 or 2016, that might have made life feel a little bit better?
Well, I think that, and another, when I bought the practice, I actually bought the practice in 2004, and the person I bought it from told me, never be afraid to charge what you're worth. And that's, and obviously, you would say the same thing. You have said the same thing. And I think that CPAs, accountants frequently are afraid to charge what we're worth, and to our own detriment. I have continued to try to do that. And the clients, the prospective clients keep coming. You and I talked earlier. My biggest problem right now is I have too many people that want to meet with me and not enough time to meet with them. So it's not like they dry up because I've raised the fees.
Yep. No, I love it. And hopefully you think over my new idea for you and implement it and increase revenue again, because I'm always all about that. But again, just thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your experiences, because, I mean, you're not alone. Even Mark went through it along with a bunch of other firm owners. But there is a different way, and, a great way. You can always give me a call, but I'll share with that in just a second. But Mark, I just wanted to say thank you. It's been an honor, and I can't wait to hear about all of your vacations this year and see all the photos of the yummy, delicious food that you guys eat along your travel days.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate being here. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you all so much for joining Mark and I today on another amazing episode of the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And if you're feeling like where Mark was, frustrated, stagnant, looking for something revolutionary in your firm, but just really unsure how, then reach out and we can support you. We can have a phone call for about 45 minutes. We'll get to the truth about where you're at in your firm. We'll get to the truth of what you tried. And we'll also get to the truth of how much maybe time you've lost by trying things that just don't work. So head on over to theabundantcall.com and pick the first spot you see. Myself or my business partner, Denise, look forward to connecting with you. But what Mark has, and traveling 16 weeks out of the year, and his goal this year is, at least a week a month, it's possible for you. You can work remote. You can sell over the phone, and you can get paid your worth. It's up to you to take the next step. So head on over to theabundantcall.com to book your call, and we look forward to speaking with you. And I'll see you in the next episode.